Cancel your son's birthday party or we're done with you. That's what my mother told me over the phone last Tuesday. Not because Evan had done anything wrong, not because we couldn't afford it, but because my sister Qley's 7-year-old twins were upset that someone else was getting a birthday party and they weren't. My 9-year-old son had been planning his soccer-themed party for weeks. We'd already put down a $200 deposit on the community park pavilion. 15 kids were invited. The cake was ordered. Evan had been crossing days off the calendar, counting down like it was Christmas morning. But apparently, none of that mattered because Qley called Mom crying about how unfair life was for her precious babies. For 15 years, I'd been the family workhorse. Every time someone needed electrical work, plumbing fixed, or a room renovated, they called Owen. Every family gathering came with a honey-do list longer than my arm. I charge my regular customers $110 an hour for contractor work, but for family free. Always free. I'd been keeping track though. 42 hours of free labor just in the past year alone. That's $4,620 worth of work I donated to people who apparently thought my kids' happiness was negotiable. But here's what they didn't know: I'd been documenting everything. Every request, every hour worked, every time they chose Qley's feelings over basic fairness. I kept it all in what I called my weather report, tracking the storm patterns in my toxic family. And that Tuesday phone call, that was the hurricane that finally made me stop covering for these people. I had receipts for every hour I'd worked for free, and I was about to cash them all in. It all started 15 years ago when I got my contractor's license and bought my first house. Suddenly, everyone in the family had projects that only Owen could handle. Dad needed his basement wired, Mom wanted her kitchen renovated, and Qley needed everything. I didn't mind helping at first, that's what family does, right? But somewhere along the way, I became the family workhorse and nobody bothered to pay the horse. Every holiday gathering came with a list. Every phone call ended with, "Oh, and while I have you on the line, could you swing by this weekend?" My invoice book tells the real story. 42 hours of free labor in the past year alone. Kitchen rewiring at Mom's house, 8 hours. Bathroom renovation at Dad's place, 12 hours. Qley's apartment. That's where things got ridiculous. I'd fixed her plumbing, installed new outlets, even built custom shelves for her makeup business. All free because family helps family. Meanwhile, Qley lived in a completely different world. She called herself a freelance makeup artist, which basically meant she did wedding makeup twice a month and spent the rest of her time posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. Her ex-husband Colin covered most of her bills, and when he couldn't, Mom and Dad stepped in. When they couldn't, they called me. But here's the thing about golden children. They never see themselves as the problem. When Qley needed money, it was a temporary setback. When she needed work done, it was family helping family. When her kids threw tantrums, it was because they were sensitive and creative. Every crisis in Qley's life became everyone else's emergency to solve. I got emotional support. I got work orders. Qley got praise for her artistic spirit. I got asked if I could swing by on Saturday to fix her garbage disposal. The family tax was always due, and somehow my name was the only one on the bill. Every family gathering came with a honey-do list longer than my arm. Qley would corner me by the dessert table, batting her eyelashes and explaining her latest household emergency. Mom would mention little projects that needed my expertise. Dad would start conversations with, "I've been meaning to ask you about." I should have seen the pattern sooner. Every request came with the same guilt trip packaging: "You're so good at this stuff, and it would take you 5 minutes. And my personal favorite, family helps family, right? Every family gathering came with a honey-do list, and I was stupid enough to keep showing up with my toolbox. Planning Evan's 9th birthday should have been the easiest thing in the world. He'd been talking about it since July, a soccer-themed party at the community park pavilion. Nothing fancy, just cake games and 15 of his teammates running around having fun. I put down the $200 deposit in September, ordered a custom soccer ball cake from the bakery on 5th Street, and bought decorations that matched his team colors. Evan had been crossing days off his calendar like it was Christmas morning, talking nonstop about which games we'd play and whether his best friend Jake would score in the penalty shootout competition. It was supposed to be simple. A normal Saturday afternoon celebration for a 9-year-old who'd been looking forward to his big day for months. Just a dad trying to give his son a memory that would last a lifetime. But then Qley saw the Facebook post where I'd asked parents to RSVP for the party. Suddenly my phone was ringing with my sister sobbing about how unfair life was. Her 7-year-old twins, Madison and Mason, were apparently devastated that someone else was having a birthday party and they weren't. According to Qley, they'd been crying all evening about how Evan gets everything and they never get anything special. Never mind that the twins had their own birthday party 3 months ago. Never mind that Qley had insisted on renting a bounce house and hiring a face painter, all paid for by mom and dad, of course. Apparently, watching their cousin celebrate his birthday was traumatic enough to require family intervention. "Why can't you just do something small at home?" Qley pleaded through her tears. "The twins feel so left out. You know how sensitive they are." That's when Mom called with the ultimatum. Not a request, not a suggestion, a demand. "Cancel your son's birthday party or we're done with you," she said, her voice cold as winter. "Choose your son's party or your family." The family group text exploded within an hour of Mom's ultimatum. It was like watching a coordinated attack unfold in real time. Mom, Dad, and Qley took turns sending messages designed to make me feel like the worst son, brother, and human being on the planet. "Family comes first," Dad texted. "Always has, always will. Don't let pride destroy what we've built." Qley's messages were masterpieces of manipulation. "I can't believe you'd hurt innocent children over a party. The twins are so confused why Uncle Owen doesn't love them anymore." Mom went straight for the guilt. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us, by choosing strangers over your own blood." I screenshot every single message and saved them to a folder on my phone labeled evidence. Call it contractor instincts, but I'd learned to document everything when dealing with difficult clients, and my family was starting to feel like the most difficult client I'd ever had. The next morning, Dad called claiming he was having chest pains and needed me to drive him to the hospital immediately. Funny how his health crises always flared up when I said no to something. I told him to call 911 if it was a real emergency, and suddenly his chest felt fine enough to hang up and send angry texts about my selfish attitude. Later, I found out from my old teacher, Vince Caruso, that Dad had been at the hardware store that same morning loading lumber into his truck without any signs of distress. Amazing how quickly chest pains heal when nobody's watching. But the reality check I really needed came from an unexpected source, Colin, Qley's ex-husband. "Your family treats you like unpaid help," he told me when he stopped by to pick up the twins for his weekend. "I watched it for years when we were married. Qley would literally call you her personal contractor when she talked to her friends." Colin had been paying child support and alimony for 3 years, watching from the sidelines as his ex-wife continued to expect free labor from her brother. She used to brag about how she never had to pay for home repairs because Owen would just handle everything. Personal contractor, that's what I was to them. Not a brother, not a son. Hired help who worked for guilt trips instead of paychecks. The final straw came when Mom called with what she called reasonable expectations for the situation. Not only did I need to cancel Evan's party, but I was expected to help plan something for Qley's twins to make up for their emotional trauma. And naturally, I'd be covering the costs since I was the one who'd caused the problem by planning a party in the first place. "You need to fix this," Mom said firmly. "Those children are confused and hurt, and it's your job to make them feel better." I was done paying the emotional tax for this family, done being responsible for managing everyone's feelings except my own son's. The family group text turned into an intervention, but I wasn't the one who needed fixing. 2 days later, an email showed up in my inbox that made my blood pressure spike. Mom had sent me an Excel spreadsheet titled Family Financial Reconciliation, basically a bill for 15 years of Christmas gifts, birthday presents, and family dinners. According to her calculations, I owed them $247 for various investments they'd made in my life. Christmas gifts from 2015. That's $43 I apparently needed to pay back. The family vacation to the lake house when I was 28, my portion was listed as $180. Even the birthday cake from Evan's second birthday party was itemized at $23. But somehow her spreadsheet didn't include the 42 hours of free labor I'd provided just in the past year. Funny how that worked. I called her immediately. "Are you seriously billing me for Christmas presents from almost a decade ago?" "We've always been generous with you," Mom said coldly. "Maybe it's time you return the favor instead of being selfish about your son's party." That's when Dad got on the line with what he thought was the nuclear option: cancel Evan's party and apologize to your sister, or we're cutting you off completely. No more family dinners, no more holidays, no more contact. Your choice. The severance threat. They actually thought losing access to their dysfunction was punishment. "Cut us all off then." Mom added, her voice dripping with confidence. "See how that works out for you when you need something." That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my invoice book and calculator, doing something I should have done years ago. I documented every single hour of free labor I'd provided to this family. Every electrical job, every plumbing repair, every weekend I'd spent renovating their homes instead of enjoying time with my own son. 42 hours in the past year alone. At my standard contractor rate of $110 per hour, that came to exactly $4,620 worth of work. And that was just the recent stuff. When I expanded the calculation to include major projects from previous years, Mom's kitchen renovation, Dad's basement rewiring, Qley's apartment makeover, the number climbed past $15,000. $15,000 of skilled labor I'd donated to people who were now billing me for birthday cake. I called it my weather report because I'd been tracking the storm patterns in my family for years without realizing it. Every request for free work, every guilt trip when I hesitated every time they chose Qley's feelings over basic fairness, it was all documented in my neat contractor's handwriting. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called the bakery and confirmed Evan's soccer ball cake. I called the party supply store and ordered extra decorations. I even bought a pinata just because my kid deserved to hit something with a stick and watch candy fall out. Evan was getting his birthday party family threats or no family threats. I opened my invoice book and started calculating what 15 years of family servitude had really cost me. That weekend I did something I should have done years ago. I spread my invoice book across the kitchen table and started adding up 15 years of family servitude. The numbers told a story that even I hadn't fully grasped. 42 hours of documented free labor in the past year alone. At my contractor rate of $110 per hour, that was $4,620 worth of skilled work I donated to people who were now trying to charge me for birthday cake. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. When I went back through my records, and yes, I keep meticulous records of every job, the pattern became crystal clear. Mom's kitchen renovation in 2018, 36 hours of electrical and cabinet installation. Dad's basement project in 2019, 48 hours of rewiring and drywall. Qley's apartment makeover last spring, 22 hours of plumbing, electrical, and custom shelving. The calculator on my phone couldn't handle the final total. 15 years of free skilled labor added up to more than my annual salary some years. I'd literally worked a second job for my family, except this job only paid in guilt trips and criticism. The screenshot folder on my phone told the other half of the story. 47 messages from the family group text, each one more manipulative than the last. Screenshots of Mom's ridiculous invoice for childhood Christmas presents. Pictures of Dad's threatening voicemails about cutting me off if I didn't fall in line. I labeled the folder evidence because that's exactly what it was. Evidence of a family that had turned emotional manipulation into an art form. Evidence of people who thought love came with terms and conditions. The confirmation I needed came from Colin during his next kid pickup. I showed him a few of the text screenshots, and his reaction was immediate. "This is insane," he said, scrolling through the messages on my phone. "Even when we were married, I told Qley she was taking advantage of you. She literally called you her personal contractor when she bragged to her friends about never paying for home repairs." Colin had been on the inside for 5 years watching the family dynamics play out from Qley's perspective. She used to get angry when I suggested hiring actual contractors. "Why pay someone when Owen will do it for free?" That was her exact phrase. Personal contractor, not brother, not family member, hired help who worked for emotional currency instead of actual payment. But the most telling pattern emerged when I cross-referenced the timing of their requests with my business calendar. Every major family project happened during my busy season when my regular paying customers were booking me solid. Spring renovations always landed during construction season. Emergency repairs mysteriously occurred during holiday weeks when my rates doubled. It wasn't coincidence. They'd been strategically timing their demands for when my time was most valuable, ensuring I'd lose maximum income while providing free labor for them. Every emergency happened when my business was booming. I realized staring at the timeline I'd created. They'd been sabotaging my earning potential for years without me catching on. I organized everything into what I called my weather report, a comprehensive documentation of storm patterns in my toxic family system, screenshots in one folder, invoice calculations in another, timeline of demands in a third, even Colin's confirmation statements recorded with his permission. 15 years of data, all pointing to the same conclusion: I wasn't their son or brother. I was their unpaid employee, and they'd been my worst clients ever. But here's the thing about contractors. We're used to dealing with difficult clients who don't want to pay us to pay their bills. We document everything, keep detailed records, and when push comes to shove, we have receipts. The weather report was complete, and the forecast showed a massive storm system moving through my family. But for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't planning to take shelter. I called it my weather report because I'd been tracking family storms for years without realizing it. The decision was simple once I stopped overthinking it. Evan was getting his 9th birthday party period. I'd already put down the deposit, ordered the cake, and watched my son mark off calendar days with the excitement only a 9-year-old can muster. No amount of family manipulation was going to steal that joy from him. I called the community center and confirmed our pavilion rental for Saturday afternoon. I picked up the soccer ball cake from the bakery. It looked exactly like Evan had imagined, complete with black and white hexagon patterns. I even bought a piñata shaped like a soccer ball because sometimes you need to hit something with a stick and watch the good stuff fall out. Evan was getting his birthday party family threats or no family threats. But I wasn't naive. I knew they'd show up. 15 years of family dynamics had taught me that they couldn't resist a public stage for their drama. So I did what any smart contractor does when dealing with potentially difficult clients. I warned the other stakeholders about possible complications. I called Jennifer, the mom of Evan's best friend Jake, and gave her a heads up. There might be some family drama at the party, I told her honestly. My sister's having issues with Evan celebrating his birthday, and they might show up uninvited. Jennifer's response was immediate. Are you kidding me? Adults causing drama at a 9-year-old's party? That's insane. Word spread quickly through the soccer mom network. By Thursday, I had 3 parents asking if I needed backup, and 2 more offering to help with setup just to show support. These women had seen their share of family dysfunction through kids' sports, and they weren't about to let some entitled relatives ruin a child's celebration. The soccer moms had my back better than my blood relatives ever did. Mrs. Lee from the corner deli even pulled me aside when I stopped in for sandwich supplies. I heard about your family situation from Jennifer's mom, she said quietly. You're doing the right thing. That boy deserves his party. It was strange how people I'd known for just a few years through Evan's activities showed more loyalty than family I'd known my entire life. But maybe that's because these relationships weren't built on exploitation and guilt. They were based on mutual respect and genuine care for our kids. That Friday night, I made the final preparations for what I knew would be more than just a birthday party. I changed the locks on my house, something I'd been meaning to do anyway for security. I removed mom and dad from my emergency contact lists. I even drafted a brief email explaining my decision should anyone ask for my side of the story. The weather report showed a Category 5 shitstorm heading my way, but I'd weatherproof my life as much as possible. Evan's happiness was worth more than their approval, and I was finally ready to prove it. I was ready to trade family drama for family peace, even if it meant standing alone. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, 72 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. The community park pavilion looked exactly like Evan had dreamed it would, decorated in his team colors with soccer ball balloons tied to every post. 15 kids showed up, ready to play their parents, chatting easily while setting up folding chairs around the picnic tables. Evan was glowing. Absolutely glowing. He ran from friend to friend, showing off his new cleats and explaining the penalty shootout competition we'd planned. This was what a 9-year-old's birthday should look like. Pure joy, zero drama, just kids being kids. Evan was having the time of his life until they showed up. Mom, Dad, and Qley arrived during cake time like some kind of dysfunctional cavalry charge. They hadn't been invited, obviously, but that had never stopped them before. Qley had brought her twins, Madison and Mason, who looked confused and uncomfortable about being dragged to their cousin's party as props for their mother's drama. The other parents immediately sensed the shift in energy. Conversations quieted, and I saw Jennifer discreetly move closer to where I was standing with the birthday cake. They crashed my son's party like emotional terrorists. "Owen," Mom announced loudly enough for the entire pavilion to hear, "we need to talk about this family situation right now." 15 kids stopped mid-song during Happy Birthday to stare at the angry adults who'd just crashed their party. Evan's face went from pure happiness to confused embarrassment in about 2 seconds. My 9-year-old son was learning in real time that some adults care more about drama than children's feelings. "You're destroying this family," Mom declared to the whole pavilion, her voice carrying like she was announcing at a baseball game. "Look what your selfishness has done to these innocent children." She gestured dramatically toward Qley's twins, who were now hiding behind their mother. Dad stepped forward with his most authoritative voice. "This ends now. You apologize to your sister, cancel this ridiculous party, and we all go home like a family." That's when Jennifer stepped between us. "Excuse me, but this is a children's birthday party. If you're not here to celebrate Evan, you need to leave. This is family business." Qley snapped her makeup artist confidence on full display. "It doesn't concern strangers." "It concerns me when adults are terrorizing children," Mrs. Patterson added, moving to stand beside Jennifer. The soccer moms were forming ranks, and my toxic family was about to learn what real loyalty looked like. "Show them your weather report, Owen," Jennifer said firmly. She remembered our carpool conversation about my documentation system, and suddenly I realized this was my moment for complete transparency. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder labeled Evidence. Right there in front of God's soccer moms and everyone, I showed them the screenshots. 47 threatening texts from the family group chat. Photos of Mom's ridiculous Excel spreadsheet billing me for childhood Christmas gifts. The invoice book showing $4,620 worth of unpaid labor from just the past year. "Your mother billed you for Christmas presents?" Mrs. Chen asked in disbelief, looking at the screenshots over my shoulder. "From 15 years ago," I confirmed, but somehow forgot to mention the $4,000 worth of free contractor work I did for them this year alone. The other parents gathered closer, their expressions shifting from confusion to outrage as they saw the evidence. Mrs. Rodriguez actually photographed Mom's invoice with her own phone. "This is insane," she muttered. That's when the soccer moms did something my blood family never had. They stood up for me without being asked. Jennifer positioned herself directly between my family and Evan's birthday table. Mrs. Patterson stepped to my right, Mrs. Chen to my left. Even quiet Mrs. Rodriguez moved to shield the kids from the adult drama. They formed a protective circle around me and the children while my family stood there looking like the toxic bullies they'd always been. The soccer moms formed a protective circle around me. "You people should be ashamed," Jennifer announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Ruining a 9-year-old's birthday because you can't handle not being the center of attention." Mrs. Lee from the deli, who'd come to support Evan, stepped forward with her own declaration. "This man works harder than anyone I know, and you're trying to guilt-trip him for celebrating his son. Get out." That's when I found my voice, the voice I should have used 15 years ago. "I'm done covering for you people," I said, my words carrying across the entire pavilion. 15 years of being your family workhorse, and you want to destroy my son's happiness because Qley's kids feel left out. Find someone else to exploit. I turned toward Evan, who was standing by the birthday table, looking worried and confused, and made my choice. My son's joy mattered more than their approval. "I'm done covering for you people," I said, and walked away from them for the last time. The silence after my declaration was deafening. My family stood there in the pavilion, suddenly realizing they'd just been publicly exposed as the toxic manipulators they'd always been. Mom's face was red with embarrassment and rage. Dad looked like he couldn't believe I'd actually called their bluff. Qley was frantically trying to gather her confused twins and make a dignified exit. They left without another word, walking past the soccer moms, who watched them go with expressions of pure disgust. As soon as their car pulled away, the entire party atmosphere shifted back to celebration. The kids resumed their games, the parents went back to chatting, and Evan got to blow out his candles properly. The family workhorse had left the barn for good. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. My business was thriving without the constant interruptions of family emergencies. Evan was happier, more confident, free from the stress of family drama that had always seemed to hover around our lives. The Soccer Mom Network had become our real family, people who showed up for birthdays, celebrated achievements, and offered help without keeping score. I'd blocked their numbers, changed my locks, and removed them from all emergency contacts. Not once in 6 months had I regretted walking away. Instead of paying the family tax, I was saving for Evan's college fund. Instead of managing everyone else's emotions, I was focusing on my son's happiness. I stopped paying the family tax and started saving for Evan's college. Mrs. Lee still brings up the birthday party incident whenever someone complains about difficult relatives. You remember Owen. She'll say to customers at the deli, "Sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born into." She's right. The soccer moms showed me more loyalty in one afternoon than my blood relatives had in 15 years. Real family doesn't come with invoices for childhood Christmas gifts or demands to sacrifice your child's happiness. Real family shows up to protect what matters most. These days, when Evan asks about grandma and grandpa, I tell him the truth. Some people aren't healthy to have in our lives, even if they're related to us. He seems to understand, probably because he remembers his 9th birthday, the day his dad finally stopped covering for toxic people and chose him instead. Sometimes the best family is the one you choose.